Eros relationship, and I have some questions from people. If you have any questions, I love live questions, and I'm happy to answer them. And there are a few people who wrote to me, and I said, if you want me to answer you, you can ask me on the live. So, you know, what is it? You got to show up to grow up. You got to show up to glow up. I don't know. We're just having a good day. Spring. I think spring.
Yeah.
That's how it feels around here. We were going to bring some spring to the land, but it just felt like the groundhog rose here before they rose over there, you know? Anyway, we will at some point. Lindsay asks, I like Lindsay. Lindsay doubled down on her questions. So what really is, I like when people begin with what's really the difference, like, because really what that's saying is, come on, Nicole. Maybe I'll do a double analysis. I'll do analysis on how to read the question and what the person's thinking, because just from what's really the difference, whoever asked this question is a skeptic and wants to have it figured out in the head and wants me to do the math for them in order to figure out what I keep pointing to, because you don't know it until you know it. But I'll give all of the answers. I'm happy to do that. I'm just saying, so when I read this question, that's where I start my response from. Between consorting and someone authentically relating. Let's see. I think it's the intent. The intent being does your life depend on this person's liberation? I think that's really the question I ask when I consider consort relationship. And because it's, for me, that's the only thing that has me able to move through my what are called klesha. Oh, just so you know, we might go longer today. We may not. So I'll start again. So you know, I put my intention on the plane of, we'll say, you know, in Tibetan Buddhism, it's bodhicitta, on the plane of Eros, on the plane of inspiration. That is where my consciousness rests. And I'm a maniac. I'm a single-minded maniac. I have one aim, and that's, you know, get out of suffering, causes suffering, help others get out of suffering. Nothing else is that interesting to me. But that doesn't mean I can't be extraordinarily interested in the process. And in fact, I believe that's the only way you can be interested in the process. I think otherwise your attention is dragged through the mud of some vision of a climactic goal, in the same way that climax drags you through the sensation of sex. Any kind of goal drags you through the sensation of your life with someone. And so it's very compelling. It's extraordinarily compelling to say, this is good, I want to lock it down. And, but that's the opposite of being a consort. So everything up until consort and, you know, authentic relating, or it's fantastic. There's Harville Hendricks does some really beautiful work. All kinds of stuff about relationship. That has nothing to do with being a consort, zero, nothing as far as I'm concerned. Because all of those, in a sense, are to maintain the peace, are to develop a kind of sanctuary wherein you can have certain experiences of emerging. And I would say consorting is, again, the exact opposite. You are provoking the fuck out of yourself and out of your partner or partners, there is not a button you aren't pressing in order to squeeze for the juice. So it's much more harrowing than what I presume authentic relating would be like. And it has to be harrowing for the consort, the original consort as well, because they have to press every single one of their own knots or insecurities in order to get that into the, you're in a stream in consort relating, right? You're putting everything into this stream of your orgasm. You're just constantly building this orgasm that's hot enough to absorb everything along the way. And then you're grabbing for further and further things on the shore in order to bring them into the river. And the idea is that you're riding this river that you're constantly pulling stuff into, and you're getting enough force into it that it's rolling all the way to, you can call it enlightenment, whatever you wish to call it, the totality, the infinite, but that's the idea. And so you're riding that with somebody. And if you're an actual consort, you're agreeing to play both roles. So you're agreeing to play both, kind of like in the scene, party goer. You have because you're playing all of the roles for your consort. What you feel, any desire you feel rise up in them, you are appearing in that. And I was just thinking about this today because it can be at the drop of a hat. You might be really deep in this scene and suddenly a totally different stream comes here and you have to move with that and match it perfectly. So you're at the party. That's the party. The party is you're in these rivers, you're river rafting with your life. And so there's that, but then you're also the person who's overseeing the experience and ensuring that the places that would go beyond where someone would recover with relative ease. And I say this because I also think I'm big on letting people sit in their discomfort. I think discomfort is probably, I don't know, one of the best teachers that exists. And I think too few people let people sit in the discomfort teacher. So when I say with relative ease, what I mean is, within a lifetime. So that's what you want. But it is a constant building of intimacy. And I say intimacy as opposed to trust, because this is an experience of really, I'm Sam the consort. I'm trusting that you know yourself well enough to know where you've landed, and to at every turn find your way out. That's my job. So that would be a consort relationship. Now, authentic relating, from what I understand, would be a very earnest determination that you would share everything with another person, and they would share everything with you, and that you would reveal your secrets and your traumas and your upsets, and you would make plans together, and you would be two people who knew each other better than anybody else. And maybe there's more to it than that. I hear soulmate is one of the things people call this kind of thing. The idea of that is that there's some kind of comfort, that the aim is comfort, that the determination of success in that is comfort, that the determination is that is a feeling of safety, a sense of being cared for. None of those are metrics in a consort relationship at all. In fact, the best consort relationships, you don't know up from down, you don't know from any given moment, and you just have to keep finding your way in it. And not only do you have to do that, say say in this, I'm with a consort. That's the example I'm giving. In this scene, I'm with a consort. I don't know up from down. I don't know right from wrong. I don't know if this person is the devil. I don't know if all this is made up. I don't even know if they care about me. I don't know what's going on. And I have to find a way to their door and offer myself, because that is the only thing that brings the clarity back. And I have to keep offering myself. I have to keep offering myself. And then, just outside of the door, the first, like Dante's Inferno, or the first rung outside of the door of a consort relationship is hatred. You step out and it's immediate hatred, because it's the negative, the inverse of the most intense field you could ever feel. So you're feeling this, just vast, open, wide expanse, with lots of various fun, tricky scenes inside of it. And then you step outside the door, and then hatred arises immediately. And then the longer you're outside the door, the more the hatred builds, the hatred, the disgust, whatever it is, the the opposition, the rage, the feeling of entitlement, the feeling, don't they know me, whatever those things are. That's an entire rung right outside the door, which is why it's wise to stay inside of the door. But, I think, who was I talking to about this? I do think the book of the lifetime, the title of a lifetime, is The Wisdom of No Escape. That there, once you get that, things in a very strange way get a lot easier, because you don't. I mean, it's just hell being in heaven, and then stepping outside the door, going to hatred, then perhaps even making another rung out, which is apathy. And that one is just horrible. Like, I don't even care about sex, whatever it is, you know what I mean? You're just out at that point, or distraction, or whatever that is. And then you're just and then you're in ennui and depression. You're in all of these things. Those are just distances from vast open space of arousal. That's all they are. Every diagnosis we have is just a proximity to open space. So, but try from the depths of depression to find your way to crawl back, to beg on a door of something you hate. That's the consort relationship. And it's the consort's job to make it difficult to re-enter, so that your inner guru is activated. Your remembering is activated. It's very wise to be gracious. Very, very wise. And what's gracious? Gracious is offering your most precious things. And I definitely do not mean money. And they're the things that you think are so precious, you'd keep them hidden. And these are your secrets and your desires, all of those things, right? And then the moments of arousal that you felt, the moments that you thought of your consort, the moments that you were scared that you couldn't escape it, the moments where the desire was beyond what you could take, the moments when you felt like you would do anything for them, and then you saw yourself and you were humiliated. All of that is meant to arise. All of that is meant to arise. It's not meant to arise in the authentic relationship. That stuff, in fact, is dangerous. In fact, you get to keep the authentic relationship to the extent that you conceal the intensity of what's inside of you. Because arousal breaks fixity. And those relationships are based on fixity. We're together. As opposed to we were brought together. It's a very different form. It's, in fact, it's my job to, anytime I see, the skin on the tomato soup, anytime I see that forming in my consort relationship, if I have one, if I'm a consort, we'll say in this scenario, then anytime I see that skin forming of ownership or the future or anything, even the next second, it is my job to immediately get rid of that so that everything is just fresh and hot, piping. And then we have this pure potential to work with. But it's also my job to usher us into the scenes and to such a depth that you're positive that's where you have lived, you're going to live, you want to live forever. And to go in there and to be in there with the fullness, because one of the things that happens for most people is everybody has such, I'm really taking a long time, everyone has such limited attention that nobody has ever gotten enough. That place where, you know, just when it feels good, just when you really get inside of it, that's when the person pops out, right? And just when you get totally splayed open and all of the energies start moving, something, you know, that's where somebody gets awkward or does a terrible stroke, or they check their phone or something of that nature to break up what is just the beginning for most of us. And we can sense it. We can sense that, God, there's so much more. Oof. Oh my God. And you just start to open, but you're so scared to open because every other time you were disappointed because it stopped and it closed down. And so we try to stop ourselves before the actual opening occurs so that we don't have to keep incurring that disappointment again and again and again, like that place where you're, you know, we'll say in the lovemaking process, and it's so good. And you just have this thought like, this is all I want to do all day. You know, that place where you're just like all day, tomorrow, this is all I want to do. This is the only thing I want to do. And then that sense that you could, I would say that's the consort relationship. That place where that sense that you have of, oh God, I just want enough, can relax. And you're clear that no matter what that enough is, there is somebody who will ensure that you have it. Like their life depends on it, because their life depends on it. They've made your having enough, reaching a fullness, reaching satiety, reaching gratification, the marker of their own life. So that's to me what the consort relationship is. And then the way that it's different, or the reason that it's different, is that it doesn't focus on anything conceptual at all. You know, in most authentic relationships, the sex is peripheral. It's a wonderful, enjoyable, beautiful, sacred sex, whatever that is. It is that, but it is not central to it. It is not. It is not the organizing factor of the relationship. How do we maintain a permanent, high, stable state of arousal connected with each other at all times? That's the question in the consort relationship. How do we stay above the fray? How do we stay above the thought processes? How do we live in a partnership where we're so dedicated to the arousal that we're willing to melt down to zero, and whatever arises to figure out the counterpart to be the dance, to be in the dance for that, and to let go of any agenda whatsoever, but to allow every desire to be the guide. So that's so slightly different, because it's not like, oh, I'm going to make her come, or it's not like, oh, I'm going to make him fall in love with me. Those are the two primary conversations that are happening here in the authentic relating. And I'm only going to make her come because that'll raise my arousal so I can come. but the conversation that's happening in the consort relationship, it has nothing to do with any kind of agenda other than how do we stay in flight? How do we stay aroused permanently? What do we do to do that? And then you're taken outside of yourself. That's the I don't know, the promise, the reward. That's the reward, is that you get taken outside of yourself, because now you've made the tending to of this arousal that exists between the two of you more important than yourself or the other person, right? Women often make men the more important. So your job is just to tend this fire, to tend to this arousal together. And then when you do that, that's how you get taken outside of yourself, because you aren't focused on any, your needs. You're focused on this need because this is your needs. So if you have any more, I'm happy to answer.
We got one more.
Okay, great.
From Sarah. What about the possibility of conscious romance? It's an extremely compelling energy, just like sexual energies. When I say romance, I mean the call for union and merging, that sparkly feeling you get with certain people. Any comments on using that for consciousness? Because I'm hearing a lot about we must reject this in order to remain free.
Well, I don't know if we have to reject it. In fact, I don't think you have to reject anything. In fact, I think rejecting things should be rejected. I used to always say to people, like, get free and then have everything you want. But what I mean more is, this is a ridiculous yoga example, but they say this, in like when people are explaining Patanjali's sutras, they talk about this idea of you have a glass of water and a glass of salt, and you pour this salt into the water. It's very salty. Then you have a tub of water and a glass of salt, and it's still salty, but not that salty. Then you have a pool of water and a cup of salt. Oh, you can barely taste the salt. And then you have an entire river of water and a cup of salt. No, you can't taste any salt. And so make sure you have enough emptiness in order to invite and play with these things. Romance is very, very salty. and so what does salt translate to in terms of experience is, I once heard Leonard Cohen say, he lost the only thing he loved, and then he loved everything. What salt does, in the same way real salt does, it makes you contract and hyper focus on one thing to the exclusion of all other things. And when the spot changes, you don't notice, and then you're hooked on to the diminishing sensation of this experience. And so what water does is what water does. It loosens things. So you can have a lot of sticky if you have a lot of water, because then it doesn't stick for that long. Then, oh my God, romance in that context where you're pretty clear that you're not going to fall into the thrall of your own demise, that is great. It is so sexy to get lost and fall in love with somebody and do all the flirtations, all of it, have it, do it. But if you don't have, vast open emptiness in such a way that when it gets a little boring or a little bit repetitive or a little bit desperate, or you feel at the mercy of it, or you're lost in it for a period of years, and you don't have the capacity to disidentify with it, because that's what romance is. And emptiness is just vast open awareness, right? And the ability to steer this vast open awareness. irrespective of what's happening. So you can go into any scene, you can totally immerse in it, you can become it, you can live it, you can love it, you can lick it, you can suck it, whatever it is, you can do it. And then the spot changes and then you leave it. And then you can leave it. That's an important thing to be able to do, and to be able to recognize, oh, really all that's happened is I've Velcroed myself onto an experience in such a way that I believe this is me, I believe this is my desire. I believe that this is the only way I can have this. And, in the same way they say, there was a TED talk that I thought was great about how porn addiction, I thought it progressively reduces your sense of color, your sense of experience, and your aperture for what turns you on. And so suddenly there's only you only like watching women get those mechanical dicks in their butt. And that's the only thing. But because if you don't have any novelty in your life, you have a decreasing sensation. You're having to increase the intensity constantly because there's only one thing that you like and it's not working. Okay, that's what happens with romance too. That's the only reason that you're told, hey, keep an eye on this, is that you don't want to be the person who can only get off on watching a motorized dick in somebody's butt. That's you don't want that. So that's how I feel about it. But I love everything. So I try to always say, do it till you're done. Do it till you exhaust the karma. In this lifetime or the next lifetime, one of these lifetimes, you're just going to be like, oh. And somebody wrote something very, one time I had this great, she was a sponsor. I had a sponsor. I used to call her a teacher, but now I'm just going to say who she actually was. She was a sponsor. And I said to her something like, I just love intrigue. I just love that craving, that yearning feeling. And she said, I was reading my fourth step and we were talking about me chasing this guy. And so I was saying, oh no, I really like it. And she said, imagine that could be different at some point in your life. And so I think, because I hadn't really understood the glory of having. I hadn't understood that I had pair bonded with craving because I didn't have enough water, enough space to be in the space to unfold, open, and start having. And then, I had never had that experience of just being profoundly filled up. And because you almost get scared of getting filled up, because the feeling is, what will I do then? You'll start your life. That's what you'll do. And it'll be a totally different life with a totally different perception, a totally different faculty of sight. It'll be, in the same way that people go blind from malnourishment. So they literally can't see. When people are malnourished from Eros, they literally can't see what's here. And that's why you see so much craziness in the world. It's just the insanity of blindness, right? So that's mine for that. Chelsea, if a woman is seated in emptiness and someone wants to engage intimately, but doesn't see what she sees, how do they connect on an equal plane? Well, if you're seated in emptiness, you're equal with everything, and everything is equal with you. And everything is precious, and we're all equally. I've been hanging around Chongwal too long because I use so much Buddhist language, but everyone is equally the Buddha. And there are just people who are playing hide and seek with remembering it. And so if you're seated in emptiness, you delight in seeing your friends delighting in the fact of forgetting who they are, and then delighting in the fact of playing hide and seek with them and inviting them back out. And that's, first what's required though is to really be seated in the unwavering, resolute Vajra pride understanding of who you are, who we are, who we are. And then, because otherwise it's very easy to get lost in other people's forgetting, to have somebody, withdraw up into one of their kleshas, that they're inferior, they're not very smart, or nobody will ever pay attention to them, or whatever it is, to have them withdraw into those kleshas and then start playing that archetype or that character for you, and then for you to buy that. If you aren't firmly seated in intimacy, you'll believe all of these machinations of other people, who are sleepwalking, who are in the dream, and you'll start, then what'll happen, the worst thing that will happen is what's called, you'll close terminal with them. So they'll act like they're a little dim-witted, and then you'll think, they are really an idiot. And then you'll start relating to them like they're an idiot. And you know what'll happen? They'll feel like a dimwit. And then they'll act more dim-witted. And then that's closing terminal, where you're creating each other according to klesha. You're pair bonding with the klesha rather than with the totality of the person as who they are. So in order to have that happen, you have to remain as emptiness so that you can't get caught in those various expressions of people, the little pockets of forgetting that people send out. And it's a lot more fun to catch that pocket and then, taunt them into remembering in that moment than it is to get caught in the pre-scripted experience of somebody who's forgotten and then now somebody else who's forgotten. Just it's not very fun. So that's what I would say. Whatever. I don't know how you talk. Because you aren't supposed to sound like you know anything, but you're supposed to sound like you know everything. Like if you aren't like speaking with confidence and conviction, then people are like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just a dumb hoe. But then if you say you know anything, then it's like she's a cult leader. And then you're breaking some kind of bodhisattva number 72 of the bodhisattva rules, whatever. So I know enough to be happy. That's how much I know. And I do know enough. And so in being happy, I know enough to never let my drishti ever leave the realized version of whoever I'm talking to. So that doesn't mean that you have to use tricky language, because if they think they've forgotten, they're in their little hide and seek thing, and you see them as, the perfectly enlightened being that they are, and you talk to that being, they're like, fuck you, I got trauma. And then, so you have to kind of talk around it and tease it and taunt it, or, wherever you can, make a little side joke or a little flirtation or something. And we're very fortunate. I think we are so fortunate. I think we're probably the most fortunate people on earth that we have Eros to work with in terms of awakening, because nothing else is very interesting as far as I can tell. I mean, I like gardening when I read, what's her name's book, At the Dragon Gate? It's a Zen book. I liked gardening for about, 4 months. So, I mean, but I've liked arousal. It never fails me in terms of, both what it does for me and what it can do for how I play with others, like really koans are great, but if it's between koans and like pussy, I'd go for pussy. I just would every time. And what I mean by that is I'll take I'd rather just go straight into flight. Let's just fly. And then you'll figure it out yourself in flight. That's how, that's really how I learned is somebody puts you on their wing and flies, and then you learn how to fly. That's how it goes. But at a certain point, I do want to say, if you don't fly yourself, then you get kicked off the wing and then you die. So, okay. Okay, great.
Athena asks, how would a dakini approach a connection where you have karma that hasn't been fully worked out, but whenever you go into that particular dynamic, you aren't able to stay conscious in such a way that you become less yourself and you make yourself and others miserable?
Brilliant question. That's one of my favorite questions. I love that question because I've lived that life. I lived the dakini life. And that's the practice. There is, I would say that would probably be the best practice. And, people come to me often and say, Nicole, I don't think you understand. I got stuck there the last time I was there. I'm never going back. And it's like, listen, I do understand you got stuck there, get back in there. And because that's the practice, and you'll never be conscious. So that's not we can never be, how do I put it? We're never conscious in the klesha, because it's like saying, I'm looking to always be in a clear, sunny day, but I live in San Francisco. The nature of, if it's in the parameters of a, consort practice or dakini experience, then and you're headed, I mean, if it's a real dakini experience, there won't be any fog, but whatever. But immediately prior on the dakini path, we'll say, and there's some fog. And so there's this, it's so crazy to me, some of the things that I hear people say, they often sound to me, not you don't sound crazy to me at all. You sound profoundly sane. But there's this way that we think we have to be limber in order to go to yoga. No, you go to yoga to get limber. So you have to go through those embarrassing, uncomfortable parts of not being able to do the thing in front of everybody. That's the nature of it. And that's to me, that's when we talk about, is it the gap? Wasn't Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book, and I think he talked about the gap, whatever it is. It's where organic chemistry is it for people. It's where, for physicians. So if somebody's in medical school, some very high percentage, 80% or something of people drop out by the time they get to organic chemistry because it's such a killer class, right? But then that's how you end up with the physicians that we have. Well, the gap is that burn of humiliation and determination to re-enter, and again, after you've been outside in the line of hate, and it could be hate yourself or hate the other person. It doesn't matter. Hate is hate is hate is hate, and it's all garden variety. So you've made it here, and you have to say, okay, I'm here. Guess what? I'm going back for some humiliation. And you just keep doing, I'm going back to go unconscious in the middle of this relationship. So my heart is broken and I get seized with a squeezing angst and torment. I'm doing it. That's how and that's kind of how you have to do it too. You have to be very, enthusiastic about it. I'm going to die. So that's my first suggestion. And then my second suggestion, I do hope you have some great friends. I have great friends, and I used to use this word spelunker, the person who has the headlamp that sees their way through. Because you're walking a tightrope, because you cannot repress that desire at all. But you can't fold into it either. You have to stay in the very narrow, taut band of it in order for it to stay hot enough to burn the karma to take you all the way through to what it wants to be. And you have no idea what it wants to be. The karma is there because that's the furthest you've ever made it. So you're getting the opportunity to make it further than you've ever been. So you can't ever guess what's on the other side. Like say it feels like it's this karma for us to be together till the end of time. Well, okay, then part of you says, okay, I'm just going to go with the idea that it's our karma to be together until the end of time. I'm holding that as a possibility. I'm holding that that's also not a possibility. And then on the other side, it will look nothing like that. You have to hold both possibilities. You're given that hope and dream primarily because it hooks into your klesha. You know what I mean? Like we all, and every human being, definitely every Western human being has, the Cinderella klesha. So it's very easy for the gods to just be like, just tell her this is her twin flame. And so you have to have the twin flame. You can't not. This is what's so fantastic. It's 5D chess game. I tell you, there's nothing more fun than awakening on the planet. Everything else is boring because I try figuring this one out because you know it's probably a lie. You know the end of the story already, but you have to walk through every damn page, but you don't know the end. Because the end is going to be something unimaginable beyond what you ever thought was possible, and intimacy beyond what you ever could have experienced. And we know that it's an intimacy beyond what you ever could have experienced because we know that this karma is there because the karma has been blocking you from this intimacy that you ever could have experienced. The mind is just holding on to the best thing it knows. I used to have this voice. It's so funny. Marcus just left, but I used to say, this is so weird. When I would get turned on to somebody, and I mean turned on like to them as an artist, turned on to somebody in a meeting where, oh my God, we think like each other. That was very rare. Turned on to somebody, flirting, whatever it was. I would just hear this voice, we're going to get married. Like I swear to God, and I was like 40 at the time. So it's not, it's like I was really 12, but it was just like, we're going to get married. And I would hear it and I would feel that perfectly wistful heart. And I just loved that person so much. Now, we probably weren't going to get married, but I had to keep that whole feeling open because that was what I knew, that depth of me knew. In order to hold on to stay connected with that person, to keep moving with them to the place beyond karma. And the place beyond karma is the joy that knows no opposite. That's the place beyond karma. So you want to go to that place. So being together has an opposite, not being together. Does that make sense? All of a sudden, the place beyond karma, you're always together. It's just a different materiality to it. The experience has a different materiality, so you may not feel it in that material way, but you have the capacity to call them on the line, and you're actually more together than you if their penis were inside of you and their tongue were in your mouth and their finger were in your butt and they were squeezed all around you and they were heaving in your ear. They couldn't be more inside of you than if you met across the country in this place beyond karma. So that's what we call intimacy. So that's what I'm aiming for.
Beth on the land has a question.
Yes.
Hi, Nicole. You spoke about the difference between... Hi.
I got to see you again. Go ahead.
Yeah. You spoke about the difference between consort and authentic relating. I'm curious, what's the difference between a consort and a courtesan?
Less. Less than a consort and authentic relating. Let me think about, let me take a second, okay?
Yeah.
Fundamentally nothing at the root level of consort and the root level of courtesan. I don't know how many courtesans are living it at the level where there's no transaction. And the courtesan, so, you know, one level out of emptiness, and she is accommodating or shape-shifting according to his desires. And the consort is in service to the one desire for self-liberation. So that's what she's hooking into. The courtesan often, though not always, because the Buddha returned as a courtesan, 3 women, an old woman, a very sick woman, and a courtesan. And then they said, what was it like to be a woman? You know, what's your experience after having been a woman? He said, it's very difficult. But so I'm of the belief that many brothels have bodhisattvas inside of them, have women who know how to consort. But it's very difficult to do if the person doesn't know what they're there for. So if a man comes in and his expectations are X, it's very difficult, though not impossible. You know, I was a stripper and I definitely gave them Y. And, you know, and the people who work the door would say, I don't know why they won't see anybody else. They want to see you. And you aren't very interesting. You know, I didn't seem, you know, relatively to the like 9-inch nails girls or the whatever. It's just me. But they wanted the real juice. So you can sneak it in, but you have quadruple difficulties doing it because you have the perception of a woman, you have the perception of a sexual woman, you have the perception of money and exchange, you have the perception of male desires being superior, you have the misapprehension of the understanding that she knows in a deeper way what he wants and needs. So you're up against those, but that doesn't mean it's impossible.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I'll go with this recent one. We'll see. I don't know if Mike on Insta is on today, but I did say I'll answer it on live because you guys should just know I have a lot of questions on my various platforms, and I do my best, and I try to bring them over here because it's easier for me to talk about them. But if ever I don't get to one, that's fine. Or I just don't like the question. But the only questions I don't like are questions that are not questions. They're really just statements that I'm dumb, and somebody needed to inform me with a question mark. So the conversation, huh? Oh, so I put up a post about sacred sexuality, which I think is just the newest, what's that called? Gizmo, the newest, fad. What's the thing in Landmark? I don't know. It's the newest hook. It's the newest. When people have a part of their personality that always plays a game. Racket, the newest racket. And it's just like, come on, that is so like barely repackaged, you guys. You know, like it's like Nabisco just changing the color that outlines the Nabisco. It's like, no, that is extraordinarily patriarchal and biblical. That's what I want to say. So I had put this post up that said, this fucking idea about purity, and that women can't have a lot of love in their wombs because they will then be contaminated in some way. And one of my favorite Facebook friends, I don't even know her that well. I don't even know how to say her name. It's like if you see this, and you'll know, Devai Shakti or something. I just love her. She's a great person. But she said, oh yeah, the definition of purity is wholeness. And we have the definition of purity is the absence of something, the absence of a contaminant, right? And no, so here, oh, sorry, I digress. I had some feelings about this one. Oh, it just really pisses me off. Because then there's this other woman on my Facebook. Sorry, but she's always like, well, you don't understand. She probably doesn't talk like that. That's just how she sounds to me. But like, what you don't understand is there was, I don't know, guys being, I don't know, aggressive or smarmy. Guys, these guys were smarmy. And so we corrected it by going over to this side. Okay, so the opposite of dysfunction is not dysfunction, it's function. So you don't want to just swing to the other side. That you don't want to go from being like licentious to teetotaler. You want to go down the middle and find where the most taut desire is. Okay. So purity has been used to control, but it can also be sovereignty. That's okay. I just want to say, remember how I just said somebody makes a statement, puts a question mark? That's one of those. So sorry, Mike on Instagram, but that's just how that comes across to me. Purity has been used to control, but can it also be sovereignty? Question mission. Not restriction, but alignment. Choosing what truly serves your purposes and the greater whole. So look, right there, Mike on Insta, we're already on a different page. Because choosing what truly serves your purpose in the greater whole, I don't know if you're equipped or I'm equipped to know what that is. I don't know. I mean, look at politics. Who knows? We don't know. So then what can you serve? What can you really serve? Well, what arises is desire, pure desire. That's what arises. So you hook into that and you follow that. And like Yale Doctorow said, it's like driving down a one-lane highway in the desert with your headlights on, and you can't see very far, but you have just enough light to see where you're going. And so that's how I feel about this. And I say this because almost every single response I ever get to this kind of thinking is a masculine spirituality trying to top a feminine spirituality bullcrap. And women do it too, by the way. They take their little yoga spirituality and try to bonk me on the head with it as well. And it's no, it's not going to work with this one. And all of the built-in ideas of, sort of like you owe it to the world to, be a freaking Amish woman, pristine with no vagina or something. And no, I don't. And so none of the sort of cudgels, none of the well, we'll just say words of wisdom that I'm offered are going to work, because I actually am sovereign, and Eros is sovereign. And in its sovereignty, it bestows meaning rather than has meaning bestowed on it. And so you can't tell it what to do. It is wildly insubordinate to all of our ideas about what's best for everybody and what looks good and, protect the womb. Okay, sorry. I had a lot of practice today. I've been practicing since about 3 a.m. Can you tell? High as a kite I am, but sober as a judge. High as a kite, but sober as a judge. Okay. That's my new t-shirt right there. You have to give me the t-shirt. It's a joke. Okay, so if erotic energy is an ancient force, what are you talking about if it's an ancient force? What are you talking about? It's a primal force. It's an original force. Like ancient has to do with time. This is not a time, like, oh, it came around in 1800, so it's legitimate and you can listen to it. Eros built you. Eros built me. It's not for me to like tell Eros what to do. I'm going to bow to that great master. Okay, so if erotic energy is an ancient force, can it also be hijacked? Hijacked how? Wouldn't the trickster work through what feels liberating, not oppressive? Wouldn't the trickster work through, okay, so can it be hijacked? No, it can't be. There's no way. Like, it's like saying, can I hijack gravity? Can you? I don't know. I mean, you can break through gravity. There's things that you can do which are great, but you can't hijack it. You can't stick it in your backpack and be like, "Ooh, I hijacked that bitch's Eros. Now I have it for myself, and I'm siphoning off of her." It's like ether. What are you doing? You stole somebody's ether? I don't understand. I stole all of her air, like, okay, great. Right? Okay. Wouldn't the trickster work through what feels liberating, not oppressive? I don't know. I mean, the trickster works through whatever the trickster works through, or else it's not a trickster. Then, I mean, otherwise, because like you're like, oh, well, I know that the trickster is going to show up on, 116th and Lexington at 7:00. Ha ha ha! I caught the trickster. And then if the trickster shows up there at that time, it's not a good trickster. You like get yourself a better trickster if you know what your trickster is going to do, because its only job is to keep pulling the rug out. The best way I can think of it is just that moment when you're sure you have it. You're just so, oh, I have it. I nailed it. I figured it out. I got it. Here it is. That is the good, whatever it is, will pull that out. And you'll be like, oh, I'm so mad. Oh, I hate this game. Fuck it. Oh, man, I hate it. You'll be like, this is so much fun. I've got to keep playing. That's how they made me spit. I was so turned on by that. Really curious to hear your thoughts on where you see the line between true empowerment and unseen influence. True empowerment and unseen influence. I would love to tell you my thoughts. And if you're online, you can add to this, because I don't understand the last part. If anybody understands what that means, between true empowerment and unseen influence. You mean someone being tricky? You mean somebody being duplicitous? You mean somebody messing with your head? Is that what they mean, do you think? Is that what unseen influence is?
Being manipulated.
Being manipulated? Oh, well, for that, you'd have to believe in manipulation, which I don't. And so I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know about you, but anytime I have ever been manipulated, I have been a co-conspirator in my own manipulation for whatever reason. Either it was that I wanted something for the person, what's the word? I blinded myself to their motives, or I convinced myself their motives were different than they were. Whatever it was, it's just like, or, like I really wanted them to love me. So it's always because I want something, is what I'm saying. You always want something. That's the only way you can be manipulated. There's no other way. So if the only thing that you want for the people around you is their liberation, you can never be manipulated no matter what they do. It's impossible. Although I will say this. I once had a sponsor said this great thing to me. Beautiful, beautiful human being. She said, if possible, will you not lie to me? Because I'll believe you. It was just so vulnerable. I didn't lie to her. I just didn't after that, That's not my thing. Lying really isn't my thing. I have things for sure. Lying isn't one of my, obviously. In fact, he is on this call, and we used to drive together places, and I would be like, yeah, okay, I'm only going to tell you this. I can't tell anybody this. But I have to tell somebody. Okay, so this thing happened, and and then, but I can't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Okay, you need to practice confidentiality for once. And so but this thing, a big secret. And then I'd go, and then I'd sit and get ready to teach, and then I'd be like, okay, you guys, I got to tell you this. Because one of the issues with orgasm is it doesn't have a lot of breaks. And it really likes sharing the secrets. That's what it likes sharing, yours and mine. And so I can't help but offer. Not that everybody wants to receive, but that's the way it goes. And anyway, I think lying is it's a beginner's game also. Like lying is always to decrease sensation. It's the only reason you lie. It's to decrease sensation, right? You don't want to open yourself to the experience of what would happen if you told the truth, because all sensation happens in uncertainty. So lying gives you a certain amount, not real, but a certain amount of certainty. You're still able to craft a narrative that's going out. And most people who are crafting a narrative receive a crafted narrative back. So you lived in an illusion of security. But the minute you tell the truth, especially one of those really, oof, it's got some weight to it, one of those, right? Then game has changed. The minute that you stop the lie of withdrawal, I think that's one of the biggest, right? But every secret you don't tell is a lie. Think about it with the people that you care about. So then think about how much sensation there would be if you didn't have to clench and keep those secrets and all of the things that go with them, right? Oh God, if I say this, then this is going to happen, and all of the negotiation, and they're going to think this, and I could lose this, and this will happen. Oh my God, and nobody's ever stayed after I said this, and I'm too much here, so I better not do that. And all of the management, it's like 80% of your bandwidth is going to management, protecting your secrets, protecting your lies, so it's not even bad. Nothing I say is ever ethical ethical, yeah, but moral. I don't have any morals at all. I have principles much deeper than morals could ever go. I'm just laughing up at morals because they're so ridiculously out of alignment with the Dharma. But what happens when you determine that these things, these minerals that you have, that have been that have been planted in the soil, right? All these rich minerals of secrets and unsaid things and all of that exists, that you're just going to offer those. You're going to take the risk, and you're going to offer those. And then you're going to open yourself to the experience of rejection. And you're going to offer them as authentically as you possibly can. You're not going to put any coating on them whatsoever, none, like no wax coating to make them look more attractive like they do on fruit. You're just going to, in its still trembling form, you're going to offer that. And then see what happens to your world when you do that. That's how you rise from the dead. That is the resurrection, is when you offer the living, breathing, untold secrets to the proper places. And we all know each one kind of has a proper place that it's intended to go. When you do that, everything begins to come alive. But then it's iterative, because now you don't have all of this deadening force down here, right? And you have all of this coming alive. And then in the aliveness, it gets iterative, because now you're living here in the alive place. So more alive stuff comes. I also want to say, I think people are afraid that if they revealed everything, there wouldn't be anything else. And what I would suggest is, first of all, I've met very few people who revealed everything, but say there was, again, that's where the game starts. It doesn't start until that point. It's not even interesting until that point, because the archetypes can't get into you until that point. As long as there's secrets or sneakiness or withholding, I think, yeah, I don't know if that one's gendered, sneakiness or withholding, but I do know that withholding is a big one that women do, right? Or just give you partial, right? Like that, how much can I handle of what I am feeling I would express? And so then it's like, you're cool, right? And so everything is cooled by the time that we offer it to another person. And then it's kind of dead, right? It's like been sitting under a heat lamp or something. It doesn't have that vibrating life feeling. And that's where the stuff happens. And, I often just define intimacy as, discovering who this person is at the same time they're discovering who they are in the exact same moment, because the fresh stuff is rising from below of what they didn't know was possible. And then you're just sharing that together, and, they or you, however it goes, are in the vulnerable position of revealing something they haven't revealed. And then they or you are in the vulnerable position of receiving something that you don't know if you can receive. Just that, and that's where emptiness is the bomb. Because if it's more than you can receive, then you just open the back door. Just let it keep going all the way through, and let the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas handle it. And then you can just be warm-hearted and loving. That's the nature of it. But I'll tell you, I've been on the receiving end a few times, and I do my best to stay in the really hard ones, like the really hard ones where somehow you are an afterthought in the middle of their life fantasy. You're like, it's good to be that. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me as an audience to your life. Those ones where you're just, but I try to stay in those. And then this is one of the things that maybe I'll talk about tomorrow, but I'll touch on it today because I think it is the most powerful tool that exists, and that's to eroticize everything. Everything. There are two. One is eroticize everything, and two is know where you are. So I'll start with know where you are because it precedes. So the know where you are is when you're in consort play. I hope I get great language. I hope I don't get diddly. I don't need diddly. I'm just going to talk, and then there'll be people who listen, who are bridge builders, and they'll be able to say it to human beings. Because whoever watches me knows you're not going to get a human being on this thing. Although I'm a human. But so anyway, I don't even know. Consort. Know where you are. So what I mean by that is this. You are moving through karmas, and you're moving through archetypes. The emptier you are, the more saturated, real, and vivid your experience of those archetypes. In the same way that in Tibetan Buddhism, you're visualizing deities, and then all of a sudden, the day may or may not come where like the deities waves, you're like, ah, how did that happen? Something of that nature. So as you empty yourself of klesha more or convert it quickly, the scenes that you end up in are so real and so vivid, and they don't need to be in the physical. They're just arising in this real, vivid richness way where in the same way they say that, the monks are actually making love with the deities, that is happening for you. And so you're in that, and it's important to also have a second mind. You don't have to check in with it all that often, but it's important to check in with and realize everything that's happening here. You're really listening, thanks. Everything that's happening here in this moment is the expression of this archetype. I'm inside of the archetype of desperate and yearning and terrified that you're going to leave me, and grasping and begging. And it's behind a mask that I've worn my entire life of being cool. And all of a sudden, I'm just clinging and holding on and begging. And it's like, yes, that is your experience, but that is the experience. That's the experience of being in that place. It's an incredible experience, especially if you can bring that to your erotic experience. That's the place where, you're in extreme bliss with, that I would do anything for you. That to me is one of the highest sensations that exists, that place where you're just so taken by the rapture. And that's all that runs through your mind is, I would do anything for you, anything. I would do anything for you, anything. And that natural outpouring of offering takes over your entire consciousness. And that's it eroticized. So all of these torments exist in order for you to bring them to the erotic transmutation process. So that feeling of, I'm a loser, I'm desperate, I'm always grasping, I'm so obsessed, I'm never going to get over this, I'm always going to be this kind of person, nobody's ever going to love me as much as I love them, whatever those things are. Those are all built into the archetypal realm of that location. You get brought there, you get brought into that full-fledged dynamic experience to eroticize it to the rapture. Every single one of those is that. And as you become a better player, yeah, I can say that. As you become, and maybe all of you already go to every single one. Then what happens is it's fascinating to enter all of them. Everything you'd ever avoid about yourself, you're sort of like, just, I don't ever understand what anybody's talking about. And then like following that, into the place of denial, right? And that all of the kind of feeling stupid, kind of feeling out of it, kind of feeling always confused, kind of feeling like you don't get it, kind of feeling like you have to cover up the fact that you don't get it, kind of feeling checked out, kind of feeling like you're never going to make it and connect with people, all of those things, right? And then you eroticize that, and that just becomes space. So that's what I think about that one.
Another question from Stacy on Instagram. How do you use your sexuality in consort relating? How do you have sex well in this kind of relating?
How do you have sex well? Well, I have many years of Om practice, and I did that. To me, what Om does is it just melts down all of the fixed energy until it's pure potential. And so you're like a pool of energy that doesn't have directed instructions about where the energy should go or the preferences, and you have to have that in order to play in the consort realm, or it just gets kind of clunky and boring or scary, If I'm not pure potential and a sort of massive aggression arises in my partner, that's scary. But if I'm pure potential, I'm water, and I know exactly how to work with that. I know exactly how to gauge where we're at. I know exactly how to work with it. I know how far to go in enjoyment, when to pull back. All of that is built into the understanding if I'm in the position of pure potential. If not, then it's going to hit one of my fears, one of my concerns, one of my cautions. And if that happens, it's hitting something rigid. If it hits something rigid, it's going to send back a message of fear. So now you have fear engaging with aggression. This is not a good combination, okay? So the first thing I did was years of practice to get to this place of pure potential. And then the second part of the question.
How do you have sex well in this kind of relating?
So then how do you have sex well? The best thing that I can say, and my friend Eli, if you ask on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, my friend, you can post this question that's from you, and Eli will send you the How to Make Love Sutra, Making Love Sutra, that I think is from the Esoteric Sutras. Nod, Eli. Yeah, good. So, see, he got a little bit of my Dom. He was pulling my Dom out of me. He's thinking, I miss Nicole. I need a little spanky. so that I respond with greater alacrity. So, what was I saying? So then how do you make love? And so anybody who wants this sutra, you can get it for free trial of the sutras. I'm happy to share it. We had so much fun writing the sutra. I wrote it. I was with Maya and Eli in Italy, and I was so turned on writing this. And and Eli was just like, "What are you writing? What are you doing? What are you writing? What are you doing?" And because we were sharing everything, we were living in the vibration of writing these things. And I was like, "I think I have a good one." And then he read it and he said, "You have a good one." So it was good. So that's the first instructions. But really, what I would say is you listen. It's all music. And so you feel how different the pacing is at various points in my talk, or how sometimes I'll come in with something really intense or something lighter and funny. Well, all I'm doing is sensing the energy here, and then I'm playing that energy like an instrument. And that's the same way that I make love. And so I'm listening very, very closely to everything, the slight sound of the breath, if we go down deep enough, the kind of beating of the heart, and I'm listening with my eyes to the amount of sweat on their body, or the deeper stirrings in me. Like if I have like a desire to like stick my nails in them, what is that? Where did that come from? Or if I have, the desire to just push them away from me, or if I feel, like I want to just curl up and be very young. And so I start playing with those energies. I allow that energy to take me over, because usually what we're doing is we have a goal or an aim, so we're trying to go somewhere, and we bypass these energies. They're saying, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, hey, hey." And so I move in that direction and I follow it. Even if it doesn't make sense, I follow it. And then all of a sudden it turns into something, right? And then it has its own sort of expression and identity. And then really the best way I can describe it, and you'll really, as far as I know, from the people I've talked to, you'll only know this if you know psychedelics, but there is a point where you're no longer imagining the scene. The scene has arisen and you're inside of it, and you're one of the characters, and it's moving through you, and it's using you for its purposes. It wanted to come in and meet what's over there, and what's over there wanted to meet what's over here. And then you're really just an observer at that point. You're an observer who's being rewarded with bliss. They're just like, give her some bliss. She listened well. We're going to just do our thing through you, if you don't mind. I don't think you mind. And so you have two people in this perfect rhythmic bliss together, which doesn't necessarily even have to move. You just have this bliss, this big fat bliss. But there's this entire dance that's happening between the two of you that you're getting to witness. And it's like, it's like getting to watch eternal lovers come back together. And then you get all of in the same way in near-death experience videos, they talk about, I was more home than I had ever been. I came home. This is more in love than you've ever been, because they're in love. You're getting to live in this eternal love, and you're getting that pumped in you rather than the silly finite, grab whatever drops you can for another personality. You know what I mean? I love you too. You're so handsome. You're so pretty. Like that's not anything. This is just this volcano of love that you're both, dissolving inside of it, but getting to witness. So there's a concurrent feeling of, how am I doing over there? It's okay. We're doing all right. Okay. So there's this eternal feeling. And so the two feelings are, you get to feel a love you've never felt, and you get to feel an honor to witness it like you've never felt. And then what's amazing is that feeling transfers over to the person. Does that make sense? But it's really a byproduct of these two forces coming together. But it transfers over to the person without stickiness. It's like we both got to be in that place together. And so we left with our souvenirs of a feeling of honor and a feeling of love. But you're holding them rather than being gripped by them. That's what I think. How's that? Good? Do we have more there? Okay, good. Then I think we're good.
Take some reflection.
Yeah.
So go ahead and raise your hand if you have a reflection, or send in a reflection on Zoom. And we can start with Russell.
What a wonderful Tuesday. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Good. I can hear you. All sensation occurs in uncertainty. It's like being a little bit hungry, and it's a way, at least for me, what I got was like this really clean way to come from emptiness by letting myself be a little bit hungry and uncertain. Thank you.
Go to Rachel Kane.
I just love today's talk.
Ooh,
And
wait, what's her name? Rachel? Okay, go ahead, Rachel.
yes, thank you so much. I just loved everything you said, and how you and Eros takes things that you think are just impossible or like devastating or like intractable problems and turns them into these fun games for the purposes of everyone's awakening.
I used to have a group of friends. We all we did that together, but I guess I don't know what happens. I guess people just drift away.
Or closer,
We shall see. We shall see.
Rachel Regan.
Hi. I thought today's talk was especially beautiful. I think because I think my deepest desire has always been intimacy. And so you just brought us through a whole kaleidoscope every terrain, but the message was intimacy. And there was a moment when you said something like, it's nothing that you ever think it is. And there's a few things you said. Nothing you ever think it is. All secrets are lies or a form of withdrawal from intimacy. And withdrawing is my favorite one. So it really touched me. Like vast and huge withdrawal. Like a black hole is gonna suck the world with me. That's my favorite kind. And it was just gorgeous. You
Girl,
said
you are lit up. Okay, keep going.
and it was just a gorgeous moment. I think you said you said something like all withdrawal is I heard it like all withdrawal is a betrayal of myself, because my desire is the thing that I'm withdrawing from, the
That's
deepest
right.
desire. And the whole talk, it was just like this little step. Every step was just intimacy. It was just gorgeous. It was just gorgeous.
Well, perhaps one day you'll come here and we'll celebrate together.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's right.
And Kaylee on Instagram says, my biggest takeaway was the piece around lying and how all lying is seeking decrease of sensation. So much grace opened up for me around this. Grateful for this wider lens of clarity.
Thank you. Okay, I have an idea. Tomorrow we'll read the Making Love Sutra, or part of it. I think it's really long. I think it's 16 pages or something, but we'll read part of it. It's fun to open with. And then, oh, is it tomorrow? Yeah, I can do tomorrow. I can do tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow at 1.